16 Feb. 65. Dearest Suzie, I received the tape from you today and was glad to get it. I was tickled at the boy. I'll bet you have your hands full with them. I'm glad Shirley likes your pins. I will get her one and send it to you as soon as I can get into town. I'm scared to go into town, although it is not off limits anymore. I still don't go any more than I have to. I'm about to go stir crazy because I haven't been off the compound in about 2 weeks. The walls are closing in on me. The camera didn't come back yet. I'll get it in the mail to you as soon as I get it. We finally got our orders last night, and of course, we all got drunk. The old man made a big production out of it, with pictures and newspaper accounts and everything. You might pay attention to the Orlando papers. They may carry the article next month. They will also probably carry the article about our awards, too. We will probably have an awards ceremony next month. I know that I have already earned 6 air medals, but it takes a long time to get them. There is not a lot going on over here right now. I just wish things would stay this quiet for the next 7 months. I love you all and miss you very much. Kiss the boys for me. All my love, Bill. In this letter, Bill writes about something that gives us a glimpse into how the war was being portrayed back home. Newspaper coverage. He tells Suzie to check the Orlando Sentinel because their unit might be featured along with an upcoming award ceremony. This small detail reveals a lot about how soldiers like Bill understood their service and how families back home followed the war through local news. During this stage of the Vietnam War, newspapers still framed American involvement in an overwhelmingly positive light. Articles focused on acts of bravery, awards, and achievements rather than the day-to-day realities of combat. While Bill's letters often express exhaustion and frustration, the version of the war that would appear in print was much more polished, highlighting commendations and ceremonies instead of the strain of constant alert and isolation. Bill himself acknowledges the public-facing nature of it all, mentioning that their commanding officer made a big production out of their orders, complete with pictures and press coverage. For families back home, seeing a loved one's name in the newspaper was often a point of pride. It was a way to feel connected, to believe their sacrifices were being recognized, and to reassure themselves that their soldier was doing well. But that kind of public recognition didn't always match the private experiences of those actually fighting. Bill's letters show how isolated he felt, stuck on the compound, afraid to go into town even though it was no longer off limits. The walls were closing in on him, yet back in Orlando, the headlines might tell a very different story. The military played an active role in shaping how the war was reported, working closely with newspapers to highlight achievements and boost morale. Bill's mention of the upcoming award ceremony is a reminder that these moments weren't just for the soldiers. They were carefully documented and sent back home to reinforce the idea of progress. But, as we'll see in later letters and have already seen, the reality of Vietnam was far more complicated than the stories printed in the local newspaper. I was fortunate enough a few years ago to go to the Library of Congress and actually do a bit of archival research on this project. One of the things I did was look through nationally popular newspapers in the U.S. for mentions of Poppy or the 114th Aviation Company. I didn't find the one mentioned in this letter of the Orlando Sentinel. The only mention of Poppy I found anywhere was in the Chicago Tribune. They were doing a day in the life of a soldier and mentioned him as a helicopter pilot on a radio. Maybe I'll read it to you all on the show one day. The photo I chose for today reflects a slice of daily life for Poppy as a soldier, not one likely seen in American newspapers. It shows 2 women washing clothes on a patio outside. Behind them is a gate with sandbags stacked around it. Above them are white shirts hanging on a clothesline to dry. Once again, we see the dynamic relationship between the soldiers and people who lived nearby the bases. They hired these women to do their laundry. These women could have been VC agents or spies in contact with the very people who were mortaring nearby bases. They also could have just been trying to make an honest living during a time of war where their usual means for income had evaporated due to the danger. Who knows? I'm Alex Lowy, and I hope you have enjoyed listening to this episode of Dearest Suzie, and receiving messages from the past that my Poppy wrote exactly 60 years ago. I sincerely appreciate your time and interest. Please consider following the podcast on your preferred platform, and if you're enjoying it, I kindly ask that you take the time to rate the show and leave a review. Also, please follow the project on YouTube, X, and Instagram. All likes, comments, shares, and reviews will help grow the reach of this story. The links for these things should be in the description of this episode. Please feel free to email me at dearestsuziepodcast@gmail.com if you have anything you'd like to say. I'd love to chat or to hear about your stories as well. Thank you for listening, and God bless.